the Hong Kong film set fell silent. Two warriors stood face to face, muscles tensed, eyes locked in a battle that hadn't even begun. Bruce Lee, the 135-pound legend who could strike faster than the camera could capture, and Bolo Young, the 220-pound mountain of muscle who had crushed opponents in underground fighting rings across Asia. "You think your size scares me?" Bruce's voice was calm, but his eyes burned with intensity. Bolo cracked his knuckles, each pop echoing through the studio like a warning shot. "I've broken men twice your size, little dragon." What happened next would become one of the most legendary moments in martial arts history. A confrontation so intense that even the film crew stepped back. Because when pride meets skill and arrogance faces discipline, only one can walk away victorious. Before we dive into this incredible story, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. Now, where were we? Oh yes, the moment everything changed. The Two Warriors. Hong Kong, 1973. The Golden Harvest Studios buzzed with the energy of cinema history being made. Enter the Dragon was the film that would introduce Bruce Lee to Western audiences, and the production needed a villain who could match Bruce's intensity on screen. That's when Bolo Young walked onto the set. Born Yangtze in Guangzhou, China, Bolo had spent 20 years building his body into a weapon. He wasn't just a bodybuilder. He was a genuine fighter who'd won the Mr. Hong Kong Bodybuilding Championship and fought in real matches where losers left on stretchers. At 47 years old, he stood 5 feet 6 inches, but weighed a solid 220 pounds of pure muscle. His chest measured 44 inches. His arms were like tree trunks. When he walked, the ground seemed to shake. Bruce Lee, on the other hand, was 32 years old and weighed just 135 pounds. But those who knew martial arts understood that Bruce wasn't measured in pounds. He was measured in speed, precision, and devastating power that defied physics. He could punch 6 times in 1 second. His kicks generated 1,000 pounds of force. He had trained since childhood under the legendary YeungTension master Ip Man, then developed his own fighting philosophy called Jeet Kune Do. The growing tension. The trouble started during the first week of filming. Director Robert Klaus wanted authentic fight scenes, so he encouraged the actors to make contact, to make it real. This wasn't Hollywood where punches stopped 6 inches from the face. This was Hong Kong cinema, where bruises were badges of honor. During an early rehearsal, Bolo threw a punch that grazed Bruce's jaw. The crew gasped. Everyone knew Bruce's reputation. He didn't take disrespect lightly, especially not on a film set where he was both star and fight choreographer. Bruce stopped the scene. He walked up to Bolo, his face calm but his eyes sharp as daggers. "That was an accident, right?" Bolo smirked. In a real fight, accidents happen all the time. The other actors exchanged worried glances. John Saxon, Bruce's American co-star, later recalled, "You could feel the temperature in the room drop." Bruce didn't say anything for a long moment. He just stared at Bolo. Then he smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. Over the next few days, the tension grew like storm clouds gathering before thunder. Bolo had come from a world where size and strength ruled. He dominated opponents through sheer physical power. In his mind, Bruce was just another small man who would crumble against real strength. But Bruce had fought his entire life against people who underestimated him because of his size. As a teenager in Hong Kong, he'd taken on street fighters who outweighed him by 50 pounds. In America, he'd sparred with professional boxers and wrestlers who thought kung fu was just for movies. Every single one had learned the same painful lesson. Bruce Lee didn't fight with his muscles. He fought with his mind, his speed, and a precision that turned the human body into a perfect weapon. The challenge. It happened on a Thursday afternoon. The cast and crew were filming in the underground fight scene, where Bruce's character would face Bolo's character in a climactic battle. The set was dressed like an ancient martial arts tournament, with stone walls and torches creating dramatic shadows. Bolo had been pushing boundaries all morning. During fight choreography, he'd add extra force to his movements. When Bruce would demonstrate a technique, Bolo would suggest improvements. That basically meant using more muscle and less technique. In a real fight, Bolo kept saying. Strength wins. Finally, during a lunch break, Bolo approached Bruce in front of the entire crew. His massive arms were crossed, his expression challenging. Lee, I respect your movies. But let's be honest. This is all choreography, all acting. In a real fight, a real martial artist would beat a movie star every time. The crew fell silent. Cameras stopped rolling. Even the craft services, people stopped serving food. Everyone knew what was happening. This wasn't about the movie anymore. This was about respect, about pride, about two philosophies of fighting colliding head-on. Bruce set down his tea. He stood up slowly, and despite being 6 inches shorter and 85 pounds lighter than Bolo, he seemed to fill the entire space. You think I'm just a movie star? I think you're very fast with choreographed moves against actors who know how to fall. Beyond the Lookout replied, his voice dripping with condescension. But against a real fighter? I don't know. The whispers started immediately. Crew members later said you could cut the tension with a knife. John Saxon tried to intervene. Guys, come on. We're making a movie here. But Bruce raised his hand, silencing everyone. You want to see real fighting, Bolo? No choreography. No safety measures. Bolo's eyes lit up. I would love that. The demonstration. Director Robert Klaus knew he had to control this situation before it exploded. Gentlemen, we can't have anyone injured. Bruce, you're the star. Bolo, you're crucial to this film. But Bruce had made up his mind. We'll make it safe. No face contact, but full speed, full power to the body. First person to give up loses. Bolo nodded, cracking his neck. Finally, something real. They cleared a space on the set. The stone walls of the underground fight scene seemed to close in, creating a natural arena. Word spread quickly through the studio, and soon everyone from Golden Harvest had gathered. Producers, other actors, even the studio head came down. This was legendary martial arts history happening right before their eyes. The rules were simple. 3-minute rounds, light contact to the head, full contact to the body, and the fight ends when someone says stop or can't continue. Bolo removed his shirt, revealing the physique that had won him bodybuilding championships. His muscles rippled under the studio lights. He looked like a sculpture of a Greek god, all power and intimidation. Bruce kept his shirt on. He didn't need to impress anyone with his appearance. Those who knew, knew. Those who didn't were about to learn. Round 1, strength versus speed. The bell rang, actually. A crew member hit a metal pipe, but it served the purpose. Bolo charged forward like a bull, throwing a massive right hook that could have knocked out a horse. But Bruce wasn't there. He'd moved with a speed that made people blink in confusion. One moment he was in front of Bolo. The next he was beside him, landing a perfect side kick to Bolo's ribs. The sound echoed through the set. Thwack! Bolo grunted, surprised. He spun around, throwing a combination of punches, each one powerful enough to break bones. But Bruce slipped, ducked, and weaved like water flowing around rocks. Not a single punch landed. Then Bruce struck. A lightning-fast punch to Bolo's solar plexus, followed immediately by a hook kick to the same spot. Bolo stumbled backward, his face showing shock for the first time. That's impossible. Someone in the crowd whispered. He's too fast. Bolo recovered, his pride wounded more than his body. He changed tactics, trying to grab Bruce, to use his superior strength to wrestle him down. If he could get Bruce in a bear hug, the fight would be over. But catching Bruce Lee was like trying to grab lightning. Every time Bolo reached, Bruce was already gone, countering with rapid strikes that accumulated damage like raindrops becoming a flood. A punch to the ribs, a kick to the thigh, an elbow to the shoulder. None of them alone would stop Bolo, but together they were slowly breaking down the mountain. The first round ended. Bolo was breathing hard, sweat dripping from his muscular frame. Bruce looked like he'd just finished a light warm-up. Round 2, the breaking point. The second round started, and Bolo came out more cautious. He'd felt Bruce's power now, understood that speed could be its own form of strength. But he wasn't ready to give up. His ego, built on decades of using size and muscle to dominate, wouldn't allow defeat. He tried a different approach, using feints and combinations, trying to trap Bruce in a corner. For a moment, it seemed to work. Bolo landed a grazing punch to Bruce's shoulder, and the crowd gasped. But Bruce's expression didn't change. He looked at Bolo with those intense eyes and said, "My turn." What happened next was like watching a master artist at work. Bruce unleashed a combination so fast that cameras would later struggle to capture it. Jab, cross, hook, uppercut, spinning back kick, all in the span of 2 seconds. Bolo tried to defend, but his arms couldn't move fast enough. The kicks were the worst. Bruce's legs, trained since childhood, delivered power that seemed impossible from a 135-pound frame. A roundhouse kick to Bolo's thigh made his leg buckle. A side kick to the ribs drove the air from his lungs. The moment of truth. Bolo stood in the center of the makeshift ring, breathing heavily. His confidence had crumbled like a wall facing an earthquake. Every time he threw a punch, Bruce wasn't there. Every time he tried to use his strength, Bruce used his own momentum against him. Then came the defining moment. Bolo, frustrated and exhausted, threw everything he had into one massive overhead punch. It was the kind of strike that could end a fight, the kind of power that had knocked out opponents in underground matches across Asia. Bruce didn't move back. He moved forward, stepping inside Bolo's guard with a speed that defied belief. In one fluid motion, he trapped Bolo's arm, swept his leg, and took him to the ground. The 220-pound muscle man hit the floor with a sound like thunder. The crew erupted in shocked whispers. This wasn't supposed to be possible. Size and strength were supposed to win. That's what everyone believed. But Bruce Lee had spent his entire life proving that belief wrong. He stood over Bolo, not with arrogance, but with calm confidence. Real martial arts isn't about who's bigger or stronger. It's about who understands the true nature of combat. Do you want to continue? Bolo lay there for a moment, staring up at the studio lights. His entire world view had just been shattered. 20 years of believing that muscle was king, gone in 10 minutes. He raised his hand. "I submit." The lesson. Bruce helped Bolo to his feet. The gesture surprised everyone, including Bolo himself. "You're strong," Bruce said, his voice calm and respectful. "But you rely too much on that strength. In a real fight, the person who adapts, who thinks, who moves like water, that person wins." The film set exploded in applause. But this wasn't applause for humiliation. It was applause for a lesson everyone had just witnessed. Even Bolo, his pride wounded but his respect earned, nodded slowly. Director Robert Klaus later said, "That day changed everything." Bolo stopped trying to overpower Bruce and started learning from him. Their fight scenes became legendary because Beyond the Lookout finally understood what Bruce had been trying to teach him all along. The aftermath. The relationship between Bruce Lee and Bolo Young transformed completely after that confrontation. What started as tension and ego became mutual respect and even friendship. Bolo later gave interviews where he said, "Bruce Lee taught me the most important lesson of my life. I thought I knew everything about fighting because I was strong. But Bruce showed me that true martial arts is about efficiency, about using your opponent's strength against them, about speed and precision over raw power." The fight scenes in Enter the Dragon became iconic partly because both actors brought real martial arts skill to the screen. When you watch that underground fight scene, you're seeing two genuine martial artists pushing each other to their limits, with respect and understanding replacing the earlier tension. The universal truth. This story isn't just about Bruce Lee defeating someone bigger and stronger. It's about a truth that applies to all of life. Intelligence beats arrogance, technique beats raw power, and respect must be earned, not assumed. How many times have we seen someone assume they're better because they're bigger, louder, or more established? How many times have underdogs been dismissed because they don't fit someone's idea of what strength looks like? Bruce Lee proved, time and time again, that greatness comes from discipline, from continuous learning, from respecting your craft more than your ego. At 135 pounds, he could generate more power than men twice his size because he understood leverage, physics, and timing. Bolo Young, to his credit, learned this lesson and became a better martial artist for it. He went on to have a successful career in martial arts films, but he never forgot what Bruce taught him that day on the set. The final message. The day after their confrontation, Bruce and Bolo sat together during a break. The crew watched in amazement as the two men who'd nearly fought for real now talked like old friends. "Why did you help me up?" Bolo asked. "You could have humiliated me in front of everyone." Bruce smiled. "Humiliation teaches nothing. Respect teaches everything. You're a talented martial artist, Bolo. You just needed to understand that there's more to fighting than muscles." Bolo nodded, absorbing the wisdom. "I've spent 20 years building my body. Maybe it's time I spend 20 years building my technique." "That's the spirit of true martial arts," Bruce replied. "Always learning, always growing, never satisfied with what you already know." That conversation, witnessed by several crew members, became part of Hollywood legend. It showed that Bruce Lee wasn't just a fighter or a movie star. He was a teacher, a philosopher, and someone who understood that the greatest victory isn't defeating your opponent. It's turning them into someone better. The story of Bruce Lee and Bolo Young reminds us that respect cannot be demanded. It must be earned through skill, character, and humility. If this story inspired you, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Drop a comment below telling us about a time when you learned an important lesson from someone you initially underestimated. Your story might become our next video. Remember, true strength isn't about how much you can lift. It's about how much you can learn, adapt, and grow. That's the legacy Bruce Lee left us all.